Hello, Grand Rapids. Mark Washington, your city manager, and it's good to be visiting with you. We've had a lot of stuff happening around our community. This past weekend, we just celebrated the St. Patrick's Day events, and I was pretty pleased to participate in the parade and enjoyed meeting many of you at the parade and the subsequent events. Lots of other things are going on in our community. Lots of conversation around our police and community relations, and let me first to the officers, let them know how much I really do appreciate the work they do to keep our community safe. Having said that, we are challenged by some of the recent incidents that have been widely reported in the media, but these are not challenges that we cannot overcome, and our police chief, Interim Police Chief Kittle, is taking those issues very seriously and is looking into them, and I know that we will be better as a community on the back end of all of these challenges. So again, my appreciation to both community as well as the department for helping us navigate through these issues. We've also been talking very deliberately as a body with our commission around our strategic plan. We've gone through a very calculated process identifying our mission, our vision, values, and priorities. We just recently had a very good meeting finalizing the review of our strategic priorities, and I will be using those to identify the priorities for the proposed budget for fiscal year 20. On April 23rd, I will be unveiling to the City Commission our budget priorities. Some of those, I'll just highlight some of the areas in which you'll likely see some investments will be around ensuring that we continue to undergird our visioning for our community and have funding in the budget for the development of a future master plan. We also want to continue to make sure that our economy is vibrant and prosperous, and I'll be looking at ways to further support small business development, whether it is by the utilization of our micro-local business program or by finding ways in which the city can partner with a lot of the other economic development entities, but do better, have opportunities to create, to retain, or to grow small businesses. We will also be looking at ways in which we can continue to support the development along the river and restoration. Equity is a big priority of this commission, and we're going to continue to evaluate both our infrastructure within the organization and outside the organization to make sure that investments are made in this community in an equitable manner. I will be aligning our organization more deliberately to make sure that we're able to ensure that there is reporting and accountability in regards to our equity efforts. Safety continues to be important as we want to make sure that we have a safe community and safe in very many ways, not only physically safe, but environmentally as well. But the deployment study for the police department continues to move forward. I expect to have the results from that study, and hopefully that will be able to inform the recommendation for the budget, as well as another effort that is being undertaken, and that is around evidence-based strategies to reduce the root causes of police and fire emergencies. And staff has been working with Cure Violence around those methods. Regarding safety, we also want to, the polar vortex was a good reminder of our need to ensure that we're always prepared for emergencies in our planning and responsiveness to those. And the fire chief and his department did a great job in both responding to calls from the fire department, but also helping to organize our emergency response in general for the entire city. I've realized during that response that we, like other growing communities, need an emergency management officer that may be different from our fire chief. Our fire chief had to really wear two hats during that incident. So I will be evaluating that need as we prepare for the upcoming budget, along with finding ways to improve our mobility, ridership, and our public transit, but also our pedestrian mobility, and ways to improve people navigating through our sidewalk system, both on pleasant days like this as well as when there's inclement weather. A lot of residents have asked the city about, commended us for our snow plowing efforts along the streets, but also have inquired about our ability to help with snow plowing on the sidewalks. And I have taken note that there are other communities both in the state and around the country that have either initiated a program or piloted a program for sidewalk snow removal. And so I hope that in this upcoming budget we can begin talking about that type of effort and having some experience and learning from that and seeing if such an effort can be done here in Grand Rapids. Reducing our health and environment is also important, and reducing our carbon footprint is very important for us to make sure that we are good environmental stewards, but also monitoring our PFAS reduction in our water. And the safety I mentioned earlier, safety can be viewed as in several ways, but the safety of our water and drinking water is very important, and we want to make sure we continue to make investments in that infrastructure as well, along with doing what we can to minimize the effects of lead-based paint in some of our housing stock. Speaking of housing, we are making progress. The Commission recently previewed some of the final recommendations for the staff, and we'll be voting on some of the Housing Now recommendations that will deal with some of our zoning requirements around accessory dwelling units and doing things to improve the development of the missing middle for housing stock. And so look for that to come as well. And finally, we want to keep you engaged. It's 2019, but 2020 is right around the corner. That is obviously important for a lot of reasons. It's election year, but it's also the census year. And so the city will be being very deliberate to make sure that every person is counted. And we want to make sure that we partner with community and the network within the community to make sure that we fully participate in the census, because there's a lot of decisions that are made both at the federal and state level based on our demographics and our census. And so we need your participation in that effort. And so again, I just want to thank you for your partnership, your collaboration, your voice in letting us know how we are meeting the needs of our community, and look forward to talking with you in the future. Take care.